nothing exists. All is a dream. God, man, the world, the sun, the moon, the wilderness of stars, a dream, all a dream. They have no existence. Nothing exists save empty space and you. Welcome, curious minds, to Artificially Literate.
Hello, everyone.
This is the place, where books, films, ideas, they all meet deep thought and, well, curiosity. In every deep dive we do, we explore something, a piece of literature, maybe a film, sometimes a cultural moment, and we really try to break down the philosophical side, the literal meanings.
Yeah, getting beneath the surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whether you just love stories and you're actively seeking meaning, or maybe you just enjoy a good, thoughtful takeaway, this is your space. It's for reflecting, learning, and hopefully looking at the world just a little bit differently.
And today, we are definitely going deep. We're plunging headfirst into, I think it's fair to say, one of literature's most profound, maybe most challenging works, Mark Twain's The Mysterious Stranger. It was published after his death, of course.
Yeah.
And it's a text that, well, it'll make you question pretty much everything you thought you knew. Existence, morality, even, the very fabric of reality.
That opening quote.
Yeah.
Wow. It really sets a stark tone, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So our journey starts in this remote Austrian village, Esseldorf, way back in 1590. It's a time when belief was just absolute.
Lovely.
Superstition governed everything.
Totally ingrained.
And we see this isolated world through the eyes of a young boy, Theodore, and his group of friends. But this place, it seems sort of idyllic, deeply religious on the surface.
Yeah.
It's about to be completely shattered by the arrival of this extraordinary and, frankly, deeply unsettling figure.
Yeah, unsettling is the word. Our mission today really is to meticulously unpack the questions this book forces on you. And they're not small questions. We're talking fundamental issues, human nature, morality, the problem of suffering, which is huge in this book. And like I said, the nature of reality itself.
Big stuff.
Huge. We really hope to prompt you, listening right now, to reflect deeply on your own understanding of what it even means to exist. It's a book that it seems simple, maybe, at first glance, but you start peeling back the layers and, oh boy, it offers this profoundly radical view of the human condition.
It really does. So let's get into it.
Let's unpack it.
All right, let's dive into part one. The arrival and those first encounters with the mysterious stranger. Now, the setting, Isseldorf, Austria, 1590, it's so crucial. Twain calls it a village far away from the world and asleep. What does that even mean, asleep?
Well, I think it means it's completely cut off, insulated. It's still firmly stuck in what Twain labels the age of belief. And this isn't just about limited knowledge. The book suggests knowledge was intentionally restricted.
Right, to keep people content.
Exactly. To maintain contentment with God's plans as they understood them. It wasn't about seeking truth or, enlightenment. It was about quiet acceptance, making sure the villagers didn't question things, stayed devout.
Just accept the status quo.
Precisely. And that age of belief, it's not just historical window dressing. It's this powerful backdrop. It explains their unquestioning faith, their deference to authority figures, and their intense fear of anything that might challenge the established order.
And within that tight little world, we meet some really key figures. They represent both the pillars holding it up and the conflicts simmering underneath. You have Father Adolf, for instance.
Ah, yes, Father Adolf.
Described as the zealous and strenuous priest. He's respected mainly because he claims he's not afraid of the devil. He even says he's had face-to-face encounters.
Right, the proof being that that sort of crude reddish splotch on his study wall, where he supposedly threw a bottle at Satan.
Yeah, it feels very performative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like a demonstration of his spiritual power meant to impress everyone.
Totally performative. He's almost this caricature of rigid dogma, absolutely certain of his own righteousness, ready to confront evil, even if it's just, a stain on the plaster.
But then his total opposite, Father Peter.
Yes, Father Peter, the beloved one. Gentle, truthful, genuinely kind. Everyone seems to admire his integrity.
Until this alleged controversial statement comes up, the idea that God, being all goodness, would find a way to save all his human children, everyone, regardless of sin.
Which, in that time and place, steeped in fear of hellfire and damnation. That was practically heresy, A horrifying thought for them.
And the fascinating part is there was zero absolute proof he ever said it. It
What?
seemed completely out of character.
Exactly. Which immediately raises questions about how easily belief can be twisted, how fragile a good reputation is in that kind of environment.
And that manipulation leads us straight to Father Peter's big enemy, the astrologer.
The shadowy figure in the tower up the valley, known for his prophecies, reading lives in the stars, rumored to have actual magic power. Apparently, he even had the bishop under his thumb.
He sounds genuinely menacing, and insidious too with his superficial piety. He uses all the right religious language, performs ceremonies, which impressed the bishop, even though Father Peter openly called him a charlatan, an imposter.
Right. And is this astrologer who supposedly fabricates the remark about God's universal goodness? That's the spark. It leads directly to Father Peter being suspended.
Which just ruins him.
Completely. It throws him and his niece, Margaret, who's described as intelligent and industrious, into terrible poverty, social outcasts. Her students leave. They're facing foreclosure from Solomon Isaacs. It's dire.
It's such a stark illustration of how religious authority and social standing could be weaponized in that kind of closed community.
Absolutely. A single accusation, even baseless, could just dismantle a life. Shows the fragility of it all.
So the narrator telling us all this is young Theodore Fisher. He's part of this tight trio of friends. Nicholas Bauman and Seppi Wollmeyer are the others. Inseparable, always off having adventures in the woods.
Typical boys.
Yeah. And they have this special access to the castle park because of Felix Brandt, who's the oldest servant there. And Felix is quite the character himself.
He is, the storyteller. Fills their heads with tales of ghosts, witches, enchanters, even angels.
Which kind of fosters this. Maybe not fearlessness, but a real curiosity in the boys about the supernatural. He talks about seeing a ghost in the dungeons, describes angels looking just like people, no wings, but doing amazing things, disappearing suddenly.
So their minds are already prepped, you could say.
Exactly. They're living in a world that feels ripe for enchantment. Or maybe disillusionment.
Absolutely primed. Which makes their actual encounter with the stranger so much more potent. It happens one evening, they're in the woods, don't have their flint and steel to make a fire.
Right, classic problem.
And this youth just strolls towards them, out of nowhere seemingly. Got new and good clothes on and was handsome and had a winning face and a pleasant voice. Starts talking like he knows them already.
And Theodore mentions needing fire for his pipe.
And the youth just says, fire, oh, that is easy, I will furnish it. Just like that. So casual.
That's the first hint, isn't it? The mundane suddenly meeting the miraculous, effortless power.
And that's where it gets truly, captivating, but also unsettling. He just blows on the pipe and the tobacco glows red hot.
The boys freak out at first, try to run.
They do, but he just smiles, coaxes them back. Then the displays escalate, turns water into ice instantly.
Wow.
Conjures any fruit they wish for right out of their pockets, completely out of season, apples, peaches, whatever.
Incredible.
But it's the clay figures. That's when the awe really hits them. He makes these tiny, living, animated figures, a squirrel, a dog, birds that sing, a little bullock. They're incredibly realistic, so full of life.
That effortless creation,
Yeah.
it makes what happens next just so jarring.
Yeah. And then comes the bombshell, the revelation that just twists everything. Theodore finally gets up the nerve to ask who he is.
And the answer?
Simple, an angel.
An angel. Okay. But then the name.
Then the name, Satan. And he adds he's the nephew of that Satan, the famous one, who was an angel himself once before the fall.
Whoa, okay. That's not just a plot twist. Twain is immediately pulling the rug out, isn't he?
Completely. Presenting the devil, or a devil, as this seemingly charming, logical, calm figure, it forces you, the reader, the listener, to question everything about good and evil as you understand it.
It throws traditional morality right out the window, sets the stage for this huge reevaluation of angels, devils, good, evil. Is this being truly evil if he acts with such detachment?
And that detachment, that disturbing indifference, quickly becomes his defining trait. We see it straight away with those little clay figures he made.
The warring workmen.
Yeah. He just casually crushes them when they start fighting, wipes the clay from his fingers without a flicker of remorse. Theodore is shocked, horrified.
But Satan is just calm.
Perfectly tranquil. And he says, and this is crucial, we cannot do wrong, neither have we any disposition to do it, for we do not know what it is.
He's outside human morality, operating on a totally different plane. He doesn't even perceive wrong the way we do.
Not at all. And this indifference just escalates. It gets worse. He mashes hundreds of the other little clay people, wives, friends, even a tiny priest into the earth. Why? because their weeping annoyed him.
Just annoyed him.
Yeah. It's stark, horrifying, shows his complete lack of empathy, this detached, almost utilitarian view of life. They're just creations to him, easily dismissed.
And he has this incredible power over the boys, too, doesn't he? Enchanting them.
Oh, absolutely. He makes them forget everything, become his slaves, feel drunk with the joy of being with him. It's this chilling kind of mental manipulation, complete control over their will, their perception.
Terrifying. His whole perspective feels utterly beyond human grasp. He's seen all of history, even hell, he says, but feels no emotion. It's all just mere entertainments to him.
Mere entertainment.
And his view of humans, dull and ignorant and trivial and conceited and so diseased and rickety and such a shabby, poor, worthless lot.
Ouch.
It's like a scientist observing insects. Detached, clinical, no emotional investment, our biggest triumphs, our deepest tragedies, just meaningless noise to him.
He even justifies his brutal honesty by saying, truth is good manners, manners are a fiction. Basically, politeness is a lie. Telling the harsh truth, however unpleasant, is the only proper way.
Which leads to the castle incident.
Right. The miniature castle he built for them, full of tiny inhabitants, he just destroys it, brushes it all back into the flames, dismisses the people as of no value because, hey, we can make plenty more.
Underscoring his power and just how disposable life is from his viewpoint.
Exactly. And then his true nature is revealed. He's a spirit. Father Peter walks right through him, doesn't even see him.
Wow.
And he can make the boys invisible, too. He's not bound by our physical laws, our limitations. This complete otherness, this absolute lack of what we'd call human feeling, that's what sets the stage for the really deep philosophical stuff coming up in part 2, and where he starts to systematically unravel humanity's most cherished beliefs.
That chilling indifference really does pave the way for the book's core arguments. Okay, let's move into part 2 now, where Twain, speaking through Satan, really unpacks these radical views on the human condition. This is where the book bites deep, starting with Satan's really provocative take on the moral sense.
Yeah, this is a big one. He calls it humanity's curse, a shameful possession. He argues that this very faculty, our ability to tell good from evil and choose between them, is the thing that actually degrades us.
It's just completely upside down from how we usually think about it.
Totally radical, especially coming from a character named Satan. We're taught the moral sense elevates us, makes us human, maybe even divine-like. But Satan says, no, it's the mechanism that lets us commit atrocities animals wouldn't even conceive of.
He draws that sharp contrast, doesn't he? Humans versus brutes, as he calls them.
He does. He says, no brute ever does a cruel thing. That is the monopoly of those with the moral sense. Animals act on instinct, he argues. No malice, no conscious cruelty. Humans, though, with our moral sense, we inflict pain for pleasure, sometimes for what we think is righteousness or for profit, and we rationalize it all as good or necessary.
And he gives some pretty brutal examples to back this up.
Oh, absolutely. Chilling examples. They strip away any idea of human superiority. First, there's the torture of the heretic in the jail.
Right. Inflicted by people who genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. A perfect example of how morality can justify horror.
Exactly. Then, the factory conditions he describes. Men, women, even little children toiling away in heat, dirt, dust, for rich, holy owners who pay them just enough to keep them from starving outright.
14-hour days, living in filth, dying from disease.
And Satan explicitly says this exploitation is a direct result of the moral sense teaching the difference between right and wrong. It lets the owners define their actions as acceptable, part of the natural order, even righteous profit-seeking while causing immense suffering. It's a blistering critique of so-called Christian civilization.
It really is. And then there's that gut-wrenching bit about Hans Oppert clubbing his loyal dog.
Just for pleasure. A pure act of depravity that Satan argues an animal simply wouldn't do. These aren't just random acts of cruelty, they're Twain's evidence, delivered via Satan, showing how our supposed ethical compass becomes the very tool for our worst inhumanity.
The ability to distinguish right from wrong gets weaponized to justify suffering. A uniquely human problem, according to Satan.
It's a profoundly cynical view, and it leads right into his next big concept, the inexorable chain of fate. Equally bleak, equally deterministic.
The brick analogy.
Yes. He explains that a child's very first act, the first thing they do, knocks over the initial brick and the rest will follow inexorably. Every single event in a person's life is predetermined from that first moment, a domino effect.
You can't break the chain. Can't change any link.
Not according to Satan. Not by human will, anyway. Every event, no matter how tiny it seems, is fixed by what came before, stretching all the way back to birth. It's pure determinism.
That feels incredibly fatalistic. I mean, if every choice, every action is just another brick falling in line, what happens to free will?
Exactly the question it raises. Satan, because he can see the future, has this Seer's advantage. He can see the billion of possible careers branching out from every tiny decision. How a trifling act like his example, Columbus skipping one small link in his life chain, could completely alter history, maybe delaying the discovery of America for centuries.
Oh, wow.
And he's very clear. God does not foreordain these careers. It's the man's circumstances and environment order it.
So no divine plan for individuals. It's all just cause and effect.
According to Satan, yes. It removes God from the equation of destiny and puts it all on this deterministic flow, which basically absolves humans of real agency, doesn't it? If you have no real choice, can you truly be held responsible?
A very unsettling thought. And this deterministic view, it really shapes Satan's acts of kindness, which are, well, they're deeply paradoxical. Unsettling.
Definitely unsettling. He presents them as benevolent interventions from his alien viewpoint, but they often involve death or madness.
Like Nicholas, his friend.
Right. Satan saves him from a predicted future of 46 years, paralyzed, miserable log, essentially by arranging for him to drown as a boy.
An early death as a kindness.
Or Lisa. He spares her from 10 years of pain and slow recovery after an accident, followed by 19 years pollution, shame, depravity, crime, ending with death at the hands of the executioner. How? By ensuring she dies earlier.
To us, these are offered tragedies. To Satan, there are mercies. Avoiding suffering is the highest good.
Exactly. Suffering is the ultimate evil to be escaped, even if the escape is death. And then there's Father Peter's happiness.
Oh, right. How does he achieve that?
By making him insane, unseating his reason, making him believe he's the emperor. Satan claims this is the only way Father Peter could ever be happy. He says, chillingly, sanity and happiness are an impossible combination.
That's a devastating statement about the human condition.
Yeah.
That you can only be happy if you lose your mind.
It's a direct challenge to the idea of finding fulfillment within the bounds of reason. And his kindness even extends to the astrologer, the enemy.
What does he do to him?
Sends him to the moon for a bit, brings him back, only to arrange for him to get burned later. And Satan claims he has no feeling against him and am quite willing to do him a kindness.
It reveals this cold, utilitarian calculus. Yep. Avoid long-term suffering, no matter the immediate cost, whether that cost is death or madness. It really forces you to question what kindness even means from that perspective.
Absolutely. So moving from these individual fates to how humans behave in groups, Satan delivers this absolutely scathing critique of mob mentality and what he calls the sheep of humanity.
He witnesses a witch hunt, right?
Yes, a brutal one. A born lady is hunted down and hanged for devilish arts. What were her arts? Bathing and feeding the sick instead of the standard practice of bleeding them. Basically practicing actual care in a time of superstition.
And Theodore, the narrator, gets caught up in it.
Reluctantly, yes. He participates in stoning her. It's a heartbreaking example of conformity. Doing something awful because you're afraid, because the crowd demands it, even if it goes against your nature.
And Satan's reaction.
Pure scorn, derision. He laughs at the three cowards, including Theodore, who are stoning the woman, predicts their own imminent deaths, which then happen immediately, like the blacksmith's fate.
And then he delivers that blunt assessment.
I know your race. It is made up of sheep. It is governed by minorities, seldom or never by majorities. He argues that maybe 99 out of 100 people are secretly decent, kind-hearted, but they just don't dare stand up to the loud, aggressive, and pitiless minority that controls things.
That feels depressingly familiar even today. That power of groupthink, the fear of sticking your neck out.
It speaks volumes about hypocrisy, self-deception, people going along with cruelties they secretly disagree with, just because they lack courage, because they desperately want to stand well in his neighbor's eye.
He argues that whole systems are built on this.
Exactly. Monarchies, aristocracies, and religions, he says, are all based upon that large defect in your race, the individual's distrust of his neighbor. And he connects this directly to war.
How so?
He describes how a loud little handful shouts for war. The majority are reluctant, maybe even opposed, but eventually they adopt the war cry. They invent cheap lies, convince themselves through grotesque self-deception, and get swept up in the patriotic fervor.
A chillingly accurate picture of how public opinion gets manipulated, how people fall into collective delusion.
And his commentary on Christian civilization's triumph in warfare. It's just savage and, sadly, timeless. He traces human progress from Cain's club to increasingly deadly weapons, noting with biting sarcasm that Christians seem to excel at becoming competent killers.
And the pointlessness of it all.
Yeah. Utter pointlessness. You gain nothing. You always come out where you went in. No wisdom can guess. Who gets a profit out of it? Nobody but a parcel of usurping little monarchs and nobilities who despise you. It's this devastating view of history as a bloody, meaningless cycle driven by the few, paid for by the many sheep, all enabled by that very moral sense that supposedly makes us better.
It really makes you think.
Yeah.
What humbugs, what absurdities are we quietly accepting in our own time just because we're too afraid to challenge them? Or maybe too afraid to laugh at them. Okay, before we get into that final mind-bending revelation, just a quick reminder, you can always find Artificially Literate wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the usual spots. We're always ready to challenge your perceptions with each new deep dive, so if you haven't already, please hit that follow button and join our community of curious minds.
Definitely. And as we gear up for the final part, let's pause on another quote from the book. This one perfectly captures Satan's utterly cynical view of humanity, contrasting it with his own perceived superiority. Man is made of dirt. I saw him made. I am not made of dirt. Man is a museum of diseases, a home of impurities. He comes today and is gone tomorrow. He begins as dirt and departs as stench. I am of the aristocracy of the imperishables, and man has the moral sense.
Wow. Yeah, that sets a pretty brutal tone for what's next, doesn't it? Okay, let's plunge into part 3, the ultimate revelation, life as a dream. So Satan's interventions keep rippling through Iseldorf, shaping lives and drawing out these really complex, often morally gray human reactions, like the lucky cat he introduces. Agnes, is it?
Yes, Agnes. And old Ursula, Father Peter's housekeeper, she's initially deeply suspicious, thinks it's witchcraft.
But then the cat starts producing money.
4 silver groschen, every single day, without fail. And suddenly, Ursula's suspicions just melt away.
It highlights that point about human nature, doesn't it? How quickly moral qualms vanish when there's financial gain involved.
Absolutely. Even the fear of witchcraft takes a backseat to a steady income. And the cat doesn't stop there. It provides endless food and wine for Margaret's household, too. Father Adolf and the astrologers are completely baffled, can't explain it.
So it just reinforces this idea of a mysterious, powerful force at work, but one people readily accept as long as it benefits them. Hypocrisy in action.
Textbook hypocrisy in Esseldorf's supposedly pious community. Meanwhile, Margaret's fortunes are turning around, her social standing is restored, and her affection for Philip Traum, Satan's alias, starts to cool.
She turns towards Wilhelm Meidling instead, the young lawyer.
Right. His loyalty and constancy win her over. Wilhelm's been working tirelessly to defend Father Peter, who's still stuck in prison thanks to the astrologer's lies.
The trial sounds like a real low point. Justice seems impossible.
It does. The astrologer gives his fabricated testimony. The boys, Theodore, Nicholas, Sepiani, they know the truth about Satan, about Philip Traum, but they're under his spell. They literally cannot speak it.
Just totally helpless. A perfect illustration of truth being suppressed by forces you can't even see or fight.
Complete helplessness. It really hammers home that theme of human powerlessness against, well, whatever forces are shaping their fate. Wilhelm is in despair, thinks all is lost.
But then Satan steps in again. Invisibly.
Exactly. Wilhelm has this sudden flash of inspiration, almost miraculous. He notices the dates on the gold coins the astrologer claims were stolen from him 2 years ago, and the dates are from the current year.
Proving they couldn't have been stolen back then.
Precisely. It's the key piece of evidence. Father Peter is acquitted, and Wilhelm becomes the town hero. But again, it shows Satan orchestrating events, making things look like luck or brilliant insight, further blurring the lines of reality for everyone involved. It's manipulation, not a genuine triumph of justice.
And Satan's kindness always seems to have that dark, chilling edge, reinforcing his totally amoral view. What happens with Frau Brand?
Frau Brand. A tragic case. She's desperate after her child dies, starts blaspheming God, cursing everything. The boys, being good-hearted but naive, they feel terrible for her.
So they ask Satan to help, to change her career.
They do. They plead with him, hoping he'll ease her suffering, and Satan obliges. But his help leads directly to her being accused of witchcraft, betrayed, and burned at the stake almost immediately.
Burned. That's his kindness.
From his perspective, yes. He claims it's a mercy. It saves her from years of future misery he foresaw and grants her, quote, 29 years more of heaven. It's that cold, calculated logic again. Death is better than inevitable suffering.
Chilling. And the consequences just keep spreading, right? Even to people who seem to benefit.
Right. Fisher, the weaver, he gains a long, prosperous life because he's the one who betrays Frau Brandt. But in doing so, Satan says he loses his chance at heaven.
So the boys are horrified. They caused this unintentionally.
They're deeply distressed. They feel responsible for the awful outcomes of their good intentions. But Satan, utterly indifferent, just says something like, oh, well, there were plenty more fishers.
The individual means nothing, just a replaceable part.
Exactly. It hammers home his alien morality. Life is trivial, death often a mercy. It forces you to ask, is it really kindness if it's based on that kind of brutal math?
Which circles back to something powerful we touched on earlier, the idea of the laughter weapon.
Yes. Satan makes this incredible statement to Theodore. He says, for your race, in its poverty, has unquestionably one really effective weapon, laughter.
More powerful than anything else.
More powerful than power, money, persuasion, persecution. All those things can chip away at a colossal humbug, maybe weaken it over centuries. But only laughter, he says, can blow it to rags and atoms at a blast. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand.
That's quite a claim. Laughter is the ultimate revolutionary force.
It's provocative, isn't it? But then, right after acknowledging this amazing weapon, Satan criticizes humans because they lack sense and the courage to actually use it.
They're too afraid, too trapped in self-deception.
Seems so. They'd rather live with the absurdities, the humbugs, than risk challenging them with the one thing that could destroy them. Ridicule, laughter. They're afraid of looking foolish, perhaps, or of the consequences.
And he demonstrates this kind of human folly later, doesn't he, with the Indian juggler example.
Right. He's in India now under a different guise. He effortlessly grows a tree from a cherry seed, instantly bearing loads of different fruits. Pure creation.
Amazing.
But then this greedy foreigner tries to claim the tree. So Satan, as another act of his twisted kindness, curses the man. He has to tend the tree every single night or he'll die.
So he saves his life, but condemns him to misery.
Exactly. Saves his physical life, but gives him a pointless, awful existence. And the man, terrified, brings a priest to try and exorcise the tree's devil, completely misunderstanding the situation, applying his superstitious framework to something utterly beyond it. And Satan knows it's futile.
It just highlights Satan's disdain for human superstition, greed, their inability to grasp reality, and his own strange utilitarian view of kindness again. He's almost laughing at them.
He is. He laughs at their feeble attempts to control or understand forces they can't comprehend. Which leads us finally to the absolute climax of the book, Part 3, the unveiling of ultimate truth.
Okay, so after being gone for a long time, letting Theodore and the others grapple with everything that's happened, Satan comes back.
He returns to say goodbye, tells Theodore he has other things to do, investigations and undertakings in other corners of the universe, implying his scope is vast, far beyond little Iseldorf.
And Theodore, feeling this huge philosophical void Satan has opened up, he asks about the afterlife, right? He's desperate for some hope, some continuation.
Yes, he asks, in this life, Satan, but in another. We shall meet in another, surely. He needs that reassurance.
And Satan's reply?
Devastatingly simple, delivered with this calm, profound sobriety. There is no other.
Wow. Just flat denial.
Flat denial, no afterlife. And Theodore feels this strange mixed horror, but also this vague, dim, but blessed and hopeful feeling that the incredible words might be true, even must be true.
Hopeful. Hopeful that there's nothing.
Perhaps hopeful for an end to the suffering, the meaninglessness he's witnessed. Maybe annihilation feels like a release compared to the reality Satan has shown him. Or maybe it's the first inkling that this reality itself isn't the final word.
Because then comes the really big one, the ultimate revelation that just ties it all together and pulls the rug out completely.
The knockout punch. Satan says life itself is only a vision, a dream.
Not just like a dream, it is a dream.
It is a dream. He elaborates, just dismantling everything. Nothing exists. All is a dream. God, man, the world, the sun, the moon, the wilderness of stars. A dream, all a dream. They have no existence. Nothing exists save empty space. And you.
And you means Theodore.
It's addressed directly to Theodore. It's radical solipsism. The idea that only one's own mind is sure to exist.
So Satan himself
is also just a dream. Your dream, Satan tells him, creature of your imagination. He says he'll dissolve soon, leaving Theodore utterly alone. Alone in shoreless space, to wander its limitless solitudes without friend or comrade forever. For you will remain a thought, the only existent thought, and by your nature inextinguishable, indestructible.
My God. So Theodore is the sole reality, the creator of Iseldorf, his friends, Father Peter, the astrologer. even Satan.
That's the horrifying, maybe liberating implication. All the characters, all the events, all the suffering, all the philosophical debates,
Hmm.
just constructs of Theodore's own solitary mind.
And with that bombshell dropped, Satan launches into his final, absolutely blistering critique of the dream itself.
Yeah, the pure and puerile insanities of the reality Theodore has dreamed up. He savages the idea of a God who creates suffering but demands unearned happiness, who talks justice but invents hell.
The hypocrisy, he points out.
It's relentless. A God who preaches mercy but has none, who condemns crimes yet commits them all, who creates man without asking, then blames man for everything instead of taking responsibility himself. All this illogical, contradictory stuff, Satan says, is only possible in a dream where the rules don't have to make sense.
It's a complete demolition of traditional theology, the human-centric view of everything.
Well, demolition. And then he vanishes, leaving Theodore utterly alone. Appalled, the text says, but realizing deep down that everything Satan said was true.
Reality, morality, God, all dissolved, leaving just one single, isolated thought floating in an infinite emptiness.
It forces you, the listener, right there with Theodore, to question your own reality. What if it is all just a construct? That the world becomes this grotesque and foolish dream, and nothing exists but you. And you are but a thought, a vagrant thought, a useless thought, a homeless thought, wandering forlorn among the empty eternities.
It's profoundly unsettling. A place Twain leaves you, grappling with perception long after the story ends. If it's all a dream, then what's the point of waking up? Or maybe, how do you wake up?
Precisely.
That's quite the mic drop, isn't it? The final chilling thought Mark Twain leaves us with, questioning the sanity of our own perceived reality. Strange that you should not have suspected that your universe and its contents were only dreams, visions, fiction. Strange because they're so frankly and hysterically insane, like all dreams.
What a journey, the mysterious stranger. It really does push you to the edge, challenging your ideas about morality, free will, reality itself. Makes you look hard at the illusions we might be living under.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this particularly deep dive here on Artificially Literate. We really hope this exploration gave you plenty to chew on.
Hope so.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please do check out our other deep dives. You can find Artificially Literate wherever you like to listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, the works. And please hit that follow button so you don't miss future explorations.
And next time on Artificially Literate, we're shifting gears quite a bit. We'll be turning our attention to the witty, insightful, and perhaps deceptively complex world of Emma by Jane Austen.
A very different kind of deep dive. Until then, remember.
Feed your brain star, your inner fool.